Back in my day, we had good cartoons.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to PT3600, where we talk about one topic for 3,600 seconds. That is 1 hour. I'm freaking loud. I don't know if I am, but in my headphones, they're really loud. So I'm going to scoot the microphone back, or I'm going to turn down. There we go. I think we're okay now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, we are back for PT3600, and it's just the regular Primal Target crew talking about this one. My name is Ren Stimpy, but joining me is...
Hey, it's Josh.
And...
Ashton.
And we are going to be talking about favorite kids' TV shows. And that is going to be ranging from all sorts of things, whether that be the shows that we grew up with, maybe shows that you still watch that are... I don't know. I won't judge. I don't judge.
That's true.
But yeah. Anyway, we are going to be talking about some of those favorite TV shows back when we were watching them as a kid, or maybe we're still watching them today. So I don't know who wants to take the lead on this one, because I can if you want to just throw questions out there, but I don't know if someone has like something that you want to specifically talk about right now.
I mean, I have there's this creepy one that was on Cartoon Network. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with it.
Is it Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Dude,
yeah.
I have
Yes.
a Courage Cowardly Dog story,
Courage.
but go ahead if you want to go into detail about it. What is Courage Cowardly Dog?
So Courage the Cowardly Dog is basically exactly what it sounds like. The art style is a little bit... it's a little bit creepy looking. It's pretty gritty.
Yeah, but it had that 90s Cartoon Network look, though.
Yeah.
Like that Hanna-Barbera. Was that a Hanna-Barbera?
Thick black lines and like really dark contrasting
Big
colors.
eyes, too.
Yeah.
He was a
I don't
pink
know if that was
dog.
Hanna-Barbera.
He'd run around on his feet like a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
When he's trying to get away.
And...
Semi-anthropomorphic.
He was with this old couple.
Yeah, because I remember the old lady.
Muriel was her name, and then
Eustace Bag.
Yeah.
Yeah! But creepy stuff living nowhere. It's up to Eustace to save his new home. Oh, man.
Yeah, so he was always
Frightening / intense scenes. Severe, says IMDb.
Oh.
Severe.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty crazy shit going on there. Like back in the 90s, there's some pretty nightmarish things they were shown to kids.
Oh, yeah.
Original air date, November 12th, 1999. There you go.
So, yeah, tail end.
Yeah, man.
The millennium there.
Tail end there. So
Yeah, because like between like 98 and like 2002, things were kind of like weird, like because everybody was kind of like, oh, it's the new millennium, things are getting all crazy, and then we had the Y2K thing and all that, and yeah, that was like a weird time. So
yeah, dude, I just remember it being like a super dark, slightly comedic, cartoon. It was just like usually a lot of action, but just really creepy art. Like back when we had cartoons like that, they would have a little thumbnail usually at the beginning of an episode to kind of depict how it's going to be. And
yeah,
it was just, they exaggerated the art a lot more in those thumbnails. You're like, oh my God, what am I about to watch?
So just so you guys know, I don't want to bring the old podcast down, but the guy who played Eustace did pass away in 2010. Yeah. He lived to be 83 years old.
damn.
83 years old.
that-
So he was an old man when
Wow.
that show was going on.
So they actually cast an old guy to play an old guy.
Yeah, Muriel's still alive.
That's
and,
cool.
And what's funny is they all seem to just play their characters.
Yeah, they're
like
probably,
they just play Muriel, and then they're like appearing in video games.
I wonder
and
if their
Cartoon Network
characters
stuff.
are modeled after those people.
They're
in
not.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that'd be...
yeah,
They're like, you're just gonna be playing yourself.
yeah. But yeah, no, I remember. So the thing about Courage Cowardly Dog, I got a story for you here.
Oh, boy.
This got me kicked out of a sleepover, just so you guys know.
What?
So we were watching Courage. So I brought over Scooby-Doo's Zombie Island. Okay, I don't know if you guys
on
remember.
DVD or something. Or?
No, this is 1998.
Oh, okay, so still
or
VHS then.
This would be 1999 or 2000. It'd be 2000.
Oh, okay, like
because Courage Cowardly Dog had to be out.
Yeah, so DVDs still weren't like
DVDs.
Yeah, I think it is
but they weren't like a
Hanna-Barbera.
regular medium. Like they were just catching.
We're in the
steam, I
transitional
think.
period.
Yeah, yeah.
When did Matrix come out?
99.
It did come out. Okay, so there you go.
Yeah,
because Matrix was the first one on
yes,
DVD.
Yes.
Or the
I
first big
remember.
title.
I remember Matrix and Black Hawk Down were like the two first DVDs that I can recall
Yeah.
from any DVD.
Matrix
ever.
is definitely the one.
But-
Anyway,
but yeah.
So with Courage Cowardly Dog on the VHS tapes, if they were owned by Cartoon Network, what they would do is they would show you what show you're watching. It might have been just a regular Scooby-Doo thing. Anyway, we were watching Scooby-Doo, and at the very end, at the very beginning of the episode of the VHS, they're like, "Stay tuned for a sneak preview to a very exclusive." Brand new show, Courage and Cowardly Dog, premiering on Cartoon Network. And they're like, so we watch the end of Scooby-Doo, and they show Courage Cowardly Dog, and it's Return the Slab episode, which is the scariest Courage and Cowardly Dog there is. I don't know if you remember this one. Do you remember this?
I don't. It doesn't
So
ring a bell.
Return the Slab.
Oh,
So
yes.
so the whole premise of this
Okay.
episode was Courage is I can't remember how they find the tablet, but they find this piece of tablet, and Eustace says that it's his now, and they have 3 plagues on them. They're just little shapes, hieroglyphics. One is like locust, the other one is another thing, and the other one's another thing. And all of a sudden, this like 3D rendered guy shows up, and he just shows up in the middle of the of the middle of nowhere, and he's just like looking out at them, and he's like, to Eustace, "Return the slab."
Yeah.
And then Eustace was stubborn, so he'd be like, "No, I'm not giving it." And so the whole episode is Courage trying to get the slab back so he can return it to the guy so he can go and leave. Anyway, we were like, so in 2000, I was in first grade, and yeah, it was like they just, I kept telling everyone, I'm like, "Oh, dude, I think he might be outside." I think, and it scared the kids that I was staying with so bad that they woke up their parents, and then I had to go home.
Damn.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn on this fan so we have ambient noise because it's really quiet. There we go. I don't know if you guys have that where you're like talking and then all of a sudden there's no sound and it just like. Do you have that? No. Okay.
Nope.
I do for
Like
some reason.
where when the voices stop, it just goes like. Shh.
No,
Like-
it does that whoom sound. Anyway, it's only happening to me. It's
Yeah,
like
okay,
it's
yeah,
an
I mean-
internal. It's not in my headphones because I can't
it's not
hear
in my head.
Well, I can't. It is in my head. I
No.
can't hear anything else but what's going through my headphones. So when there's no sound, it's just shocking. Anyway, so Courage Cowardly Dog. That's my story with it. I got kicked out of a sleepover because of that. So,
Bummer.
yeah, but it was fun. It was crazy. That still to this day like gets me uneasy watching that episode.
Oh
of
yeah. 'Cause-
Return
oh,
the
man.
slab, I saw a meme on Facebook where it's like all these kids are worried about Momo, but they didn't fuck with Courage Cowardly Dog, and it's that episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, it's still the scariest.
I always
episode.
love seeing cosplays of what's the old lady's name again?
Muriel.
Muriel. Yeah, because I always see cosplays of her at like Comic-Con
With
or
one
whatever.
boot on.
That's pretty.
Yeah,
funny.
it's like usually I'll see it on Instagram and stuff all the time.
That's pretty funny. What about you, Josh? What's a kids show that you watched?
Oh, okay. Well, the first one I thought of was Power Rangers.
Nice.
So
I did not watch Power Rangers as a kid.
So yeah, like
but-
Power Rangers started when I was a kid, and
Okay.
that was back in like 1992 or 93. I can't remember exactly when, but I do remember watching it on like Saturday mornings at 7:30 before I'd go to elementary school. And mainly, so I stopped watching after like the 6th or 7th season, which was like the end of the Zordon arc, essentially. And
so you watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
93. You're correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the first 3 seasons, and then I believe it was Zeo, Turbo, In Space, and then Lost Galaxy. And then, so those are essentially the ones that I.
That has mild profanity.
Yeah. But I just remember loving
Mild
that show.
sex and nudity.
What?
I wonder if
I need to go back and watch it.
yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder if that was when like Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa were getting married, and they were always like talking all sweet to each other and stuff like that. That's probably what they're referring to. And there was like
Tommy the Green Ranger / White Ranger, spoiler, and Kimberly
issues.
the Pink Ranger are a romantic relationship, but nothing you wouldn't see in a children's show.
Right,
Oh
like they
God.
basically just hang out. Like I don't even think they hold hands. Like maybe 1 or 2 times in the episode.
Lord Zed's appearance
But-
is that of a skinless humanoid
Yes.
with a mineral,
You can
with
see
a
his brain.
minimal amount of armor.
You can see his brain, and he's basically wearing like it's literally a metal jockstrap with like some rib cage metal things, and he wears like a visor.
What the hell?
Yeah, it's like the villains were really weird. But
Alcohol, drugs, or smoking? None. This is a children's show.
yeah, I'm trying to think if they ever had an episode that dealt with like drug abuse or anything.
They
definitely
not.
dealt with bullying because of Bulk and Skull, you know. But yeah, I just remember that show was really cool when I was a kid. I remember watching it a lot.
Here's a fun fact for you, Josh. In the original Japanese footage, the Yellow Ranger was male.
Oh, I
This
already
is
knew that.
why
Yep.
Pink Ranger has a skirt,
Yep.
but Yellow doesn't.
Yes, because the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is based off like Sengoku Ranger or something like that in Japan, like they have like 30 iterations. That one's still going over in Japan. We're like 10 years behind on all of our like what do you call it, the transfers or whatever, like. Because originally it was back in the 80s in Japan, they filmed it, and then they brought it over here to America, filmed some new scenes, and like spliced it all together. So all the Japanese footage is still the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, whereas the teenagers and stuff, that's all American footage, and so they
Right.
were speaking English. So yeah, so in the particular version that was with the Dinozords, the Yellow Ranger was a dude, and I always wondered that when I was a kid, and I never realized that. And then it was like, oh wait, like. That one was a guy the entire time. It totally makes sense. And then when you see like the girls in future Rangers episodes, they all have skirts. So it's like, oh, okay. And then the girl who played the Yellow Ranger in the original, Tui Trang, I think her name was, or something like that. She died in a car accident like in early 2000s.
Yeah, the original
Yeah.
Yellow Ranger.
Yeah. So.
Did
But-
you ever play the Power Rangers game on the Nintendo 64?
Oh yeah. I played because I played some of the Super Nintendo ones. I played the one on the 64, and I think they had a couple after that I might have dabbled into. But I remember the one I remember mostly was the Super Nintendo one, where it was like kind of like a fighting game, like Street Fighter, but with like the Zords and the monsters and stuff like that.
I just remember it was fun, but it was so terrible.
Yeah.
Like even then it was bad.
Yeah, most of those like Fox Kids TV shows are terrible video
ABC.
games, and ABC. Well, they switched over to ABC at some point, but originally they were on Fox. Yeah, it was like Fox from like '93 until like
Yeah, that's why the Power Rangers actually had an appearance at Walt Disney World for a while.
yeah,
And then they took them away.
because the Power Rangers were owned by Saban for like the first like 7 to 10 seasons or something. Then it went to ABC for a little while, and then I believe Saban now owns the rights again.
They own them again. yes.
Yeah, so it's like there's like 10 seasons or so before, and then 10 seasons of Disney, and then now they're back to, because I want to say there's like give or take like 20 some odd seasons now, because it's been running since '93. So, and they've done one like every year.
They do consider them different shows, just so you know.
Well, they're not. Yeah, the only continuity is between seasons 1 through 7. Then every single season after that is not technically continuity, but they do have episodes where they cross. Like the Forever Red episode had every single Red Ranger up to that point, which was in like season 16 or something. Yeah, and so like Tommy came back as like the Red Zeo Ranger.
Oh my God.
And then what's his face
the
came back.
2019 one is called Power Rangers Beast Morphers.
Oh yeah, they're getting terrible. Like I really
boy.
don't like a lot of the newer iterations. They're just not as good.
Mighty
and
Morphin
then
Power
and
Rangers,
Tommy's been in like 4 different series already, because he was in Mighty Morphin all the way up through until Turbo.
Power
and then,
Rangers Ninja Steel.
And then he came back for another dinosaur one. I can't remember what it was, but he was like the Black Brontosaurus Ranger or some shit. It was really weird.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, this has an 8.9.
And now
Power Rangers Beast Morphers?
This is my favorite part about this whole thing, is that Tommy, the guy who plays Tommy, still, he like to this day is like, I'm Tommy, like I'm part of the Power Rangers. And right now they're running a whole comic series where he's known as Lord Draken, where essentially he combined his white and green Ranger powers, and he's killing all the Power Rangers to take over the morphing grid. Dude, the comics are like super violent, and there's like bloodshed and death and killing.
Dude, we need that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, and I don't know if they're gonna gonna adapt that into a show or an anime or anything
probably
like that.
the movie.
Put that shit on HBO.
But, yeah.
Well, no, they do the movie.
But
They're making another movie.
of Power Rangers?
Yeah, they made the Power Rangers movie back in 2000.
Well, no, but I'm talking about that not like that.
But I know what you were saying though is like add more like violence, which they did in the more grittier.
But I'm talking about
major
in
motion
the
picture
context of the Lord Dragon stuff.
Yeah.
Like
No.
not necessarily the reboot which they came out with a few years ago.
Yeah. No,
but they did.
yeah.
Yeah, they like upgraded it to be a little bit more like gritty and stuff. But yeah, as far as like the just in the idea of like what's Tommy or what he's doing right now, I think there's like it's like even more violent than that one was. So
like curb stomping people. And...
yeah, dude, he's like chopping people's head off with Saba and like there's like blood and he's killed a bunch of the Rangers, like the old Rangers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like and at one point he even dressed in the costume and like filmed a little short for like 2 minutes and stuff, and like the Pink Ranger was hanging out with him, and then I don't know who else was with him, but yeah, it's he's still like just hamming it up when it comes to being the White Ranger.
Damn, when they start putting that stuff,
yeah,
I'll watch again.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully they'll come up with something good, because I like if they're coming up with a sequel to like the rebooted continuity or whatever. Hopefully it'll be like more violent.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan?
Well, a show that I watched as a kid was Rugrats. I watched Rugrats on Nickelodeon. I was a Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network kid, just because like Disney Channel didn't really have a lot of the shows that I watched.
Yeah, that was before they had like really good cartoons.
Yeah, and the thing is like in Idaho, they didn't have them lined up next to each other like how they do in Washington. Like, because in Washington State, our kid shows are like Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network are all next to each other. They're like 40, 41, and 42.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like those are the three. If you have Comcast,
is Nickelodeon 42?
No, Cartoon Network is.
Oh, okay.
And then Disney is 41. But the thing is like when you have DirecTV and you live in Idaho, they're all on separate ends of the whole goddamn place. So you watched one or the other. And so I watched a lot of Nickelodeon and Toon Disney. So if I watched Disney, it was Toon Disney. And even those shows, I don't even remember. But like Gargoyles, I watched Gargoyles.
Oh,
Gargoyles
yeah, I remember
was
Gargoyles.
But I didn't watch.
That was a
I
very
didn't.
underrated
You
show.
can't even ask me what happened in that show. I knew it was on.
All I know,
but
is
I was way too young to know what the hell
they
was
fought
happening.
Thanatos and this Steel Clan.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go.
Probably go back and watch it now and enjoy it.
The show's pretty good.
Yeah, it was gritty for Toon Disney. Anyway, so for Rugrats though, is I have another story about Rugrats. Is that so I'm gonna bring it down a little bit, but I'll just bear with me here. So my grandma Karis, she was diagnosed with cancer, and what happened is she lost her hair like normal cancer patients do, and because of that, I'm like maybe 3 or 4. And so I always said that she looked like Tommy.
Oh my
God. Why is that? Oh my God. She actually found it funny. And so she found it funny and she watched Rugrats with me. And I would always watch that show with her. And I'm 3, okay? So if you want to hate comment me, like, whatever. But anyway, I always said that. And, Rugrats was still going on, and unfortunately, she did pass away when I was still young. But the thing is we had that kind of connection just with watching Rugrats, and it was a great show. Like it was just a fun show.
Now, when you started watching it, was this before or after Dill was born?
I watched it before.
Okay,
I watched when Rugrats aired.
Yeah.
Well, okay, because that was one of like the first Nicktoons. It was Rugrats, Doug, and Ren and Stimpy. So I was just curious because I think that all started in like 93, 94.
Rugrats. Oh, wow, it's 1990.
Oh, even earlier.
Oh, really?
So I watched it. Man, it was going on for 5 years already.
Yeah, and they probably run syndication. So you've probably seen like a lot of the old episodes and stuff. I was just curious.
No, I watched Rugrats before Dill showed up. Like way before Dill showed up.
Yeah, because I know like Dill was the first, like right before the first movie, or he was the first movie.
I think
He
That
is.
was that the first
Yes.
the plot of the
movies.
first movie
Yes.
was
I
him
don't
getting
remember
born?
the movies.
Rugrats the movie. I don't think I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Um.
And then I know there's a Paris movie too.
Yeah,
but-
Rugrats in Paris. I never saw that. And then when Rugrats went to All Grown Up, I continued watching it
I saw a few episodes of that, but it just didn't have the same charm to it. So
because you weren't their audience.
Dude, Tommy
Yeah,
looked like
yeah.
a drug addict.
The thing is like because for me, I was watching it as like, oh,
you were like the same
I'm
age.
I'm the same. Well, I'm a little bit younger because like
Well,
they're
I mean,
but yeah,
Chucky
yeah.
was 3.
No. But like the thing is like with Rugrats All Grown Up, they were like in their teens, as opposed to when we're watching it as a kid. Like I'm still like in elementary school. so
I see
I'm not
what
even
you're saying.
close.
Okay.
But yeah, I always watched. I loved watching Rugrats, and that was one of my Nicktoons. I always constantly kept watching.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I one of my favorite episodes of that one was the so like I don't know what the title of the episode. I'm just gonna call it the box episode because it was the one where Stu buys Tommy like this big box, like basically it's a carnival set. Like you put together like a little roller coaster and like carnival things or whatever. And so he's spending the entire episode trying to put this thing together. And Tommy, Phil, Lil, and Chucky are all pretending like this box is basically different things. Tommy thinks it's a race car. Phil and Lil think it's a
and
cave
they
and a
have a
house.
whole little like short for them doing it.
Each
Yeah,
one's
I remember that.
imagining, and then Chucky, I think, thought it was a rocket ship. And then at the end of the episode, Drew comes over and he's like, "Oh, it looks like Stu gave up on putting together the thing. The kids must be so disappointed." And they walk in, it's nothing but like box sports and stuff, and they're freaking out, like, "Ah, this is so fun," you know. And he's like, "Yeah, like they like the boxes way better than the toys, so we just got them a bunch of boxes."
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely like I don't know. Like to me, a lot of like Nicktoons, like '90s kid shows, made you think a lot, and so like they didn't make it seem like you were an idiot. And that's the other thing is like I was listening to a podcast a little while ago that at the time in like before the 2000s when they made a show for like Cartoon Network or they didn't think about Cartoon Network or any of the other networks. They didn't think about like, oh, let's make an audience of like 6 to 7 year olds and an audience of teenagers and an audience of like pre-K to first grade. Like they at the time they were just making cartoons.
Yeah.
So like a lot of it was a little risque, like Ren and Stimpy
there's
or
adult
Angry,
humor.
or Angry Beavers or Cow and Chicken. It's like all of those
Cow and
shows
Yeah, I remember
had really risque stuff. But they didn't like make kids seem like they were an idiot. So it left you kind of thinking a little bit more and like there was something to maybe pull from it. But yeah, that's why like nowadays it's like make a fart joke and there you go, and then we'll make 2 or 3 of those and we'll call it a half an hour. Like that's about the comedy that they have with it. And then when I watched like a current show like Adventures of Gumball is like Gumball actually has some funny parts in there that make you really think about like, oh man, if I was a kid, I probably wouldn't even understand what's happening right here.
Yeah.
But it's funny. So it's like yeah. So anyway, yeah, Rugrats was definitely one of those things. Do you remember when Rugrats and the Wild Thornberries made a crossover called
God.
Rugrats Gone Wild?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, why the hell would you make a show that way, the movie that way? Anyway,
I couldn't stand the Thornberries, man.
I can understand Thornberries. I didn't like the art style of Thornberries.
Yeah,
No.
it was just weird.
A lot of people love it though. A lot of people love it though. All right. Anyway, back to go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say
Before
since
we
you,
leave
since you
Rugrats.
brought up Ren and Stimpy because we're talking.
Let's go
about
back
Nicktoons.
this way.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off,
dude,
but it
it's
just why I'm thinking about it because Ren and Stimpy was going to be one of my other ones
Okay.
because that was a Nicktoon that I gravitated towards. Like I watched Rugrats and I watched Doug, Ren and Stimpy, Angry Beavers, Rocco. I watched like most of them up until I think Kablam was the last Nicktoon that I really stuck with, and then after that I kind of like fell off because I was starting to get older. But Ren and Stimpy, which to me, Ren and Stimpy's kind of like SpongeBob's grandfather kind of thing. Like because
A lot of the animators from Ren and Stimpy went to SpongeBob.
and same with like the whole just style of comedy because SpongeBob is just like out there, you know. And I feel like Ren and Stimpy in the '90s kind of helped pave the way for SpongeBob to be weird, you know, and people accepted it a little bit more, and that's why SpongeBob's so popular. But Ren and Stimpy was way ahead of its time because they put that on the air, and the guy who created the show was like, yeah, I kept getting in trouble with like all like the Nickelodeon executives execs because I wanted to say this joke, or in this episode, Ren and Stimpy are gay, and they're like, no, you can't put that on a children's television network, and so like that's where the Lost episodes come in because he's got like 6 or 7 Lost episodes.
When MTV eventually picked it up.
Yes, and
which is also owned under the same umbrella,
correct,
as Nickelodeon.
Yes, and so those Lost episodes, a couple of those
is that Telecom?
Yeah, Telecom. Or
that owns
like
Comedy Central, MTV.
Yeah,
And
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon. VH1's in that.
VH1, I think, is another one. Yeah,
which is funny that VH1 and MTV are owned by the same company.
Yeah,
when they were competitors.
They love to do that kind of shit. But the Lost episodes, a couple of those are scripts from like way back in the day, and then they actually animated them for the MTV specials and stuff. Because a couple of the Lost episodes have like boobs in them, and then there's an episode where they're a gay couple living in some dude's mouth. It's really weird. It's really strange. But I just wanted to bring up Ren and Stimpy because that's one that
I did not
loved
watch
as a child.
I didn't watch that one.
I didn't watch Ren and Stimpy because I think it was taken off Nickelodeon faster than it was on. And then B, when it was brought back to MTV, I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Yeah, it only ran for about 5 seasons because I have all the seasons on DVD.
So there you go.
Yeah. So it was, I think, because Ren and Stimpy, because it was Doug, Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy in that order when they first started. And Ren and Stimpy ran until like 95, basically, because they all started on the same day. And then, Rugrats was the longest running Nicktoon, I think, out of all of them.
Now it's SpongeBob,
but prior to.
Still a 90s cartoon, still surviving out there. What about you there, Ashton? What's another one?
Oh, definitely my favorite cartoon all time is Edd, Eddy.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh, man. Such a great show. It was. So for those of you guys who never seen it, did not grow up with it.
Not getting to reach it. I didn't want to whistle in the microphone.
Didn't want to peek it. Yeah. It is 100% comedy. Like, that's basically what it is. And
it's like 90s boy comedy.
Yes.
It's very oddly specific, but yes, I get what you're saying.
So it's them. So it's 3 guys, Edd, and Eddy.
Yep.
And they...
Double D.
Yeah,
is Ed.
With their hair.
Yeah.
Situation going on. So... 3 guys, and they're always getting into something ridiculous. Now, they have... So...
Because they're trying to make money, right?
Yeah.
Trying to make a quarter, get some jawbreakers.
Yeah, jawbreakers is essentially their ultimate goal.
Okay,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Until, like, in the later seasons when they end up going to, like, middle school. And,
they eventually go to school.
Yeah.
Eventually.
They do. They eventually get, like, out of the summer, and they get thrown into school.
Yeah, but the summer is always better episodes, in my opinion. But
because it was the first couple seasons.
Yeah, and they lived on the cul-de-sac, so it was like the whole like neighborhood kid, go out and play, with all your friends that lived in the neighborhood. So they just go and do that, and it would be super exaggerated. Like they made this elevator where they wanted to see if they could get to the moon, and they just kept stacking shit, and they ended up like.
Well, no, Ed kept stacking it.
Yes.
Double D and Eddie eventually like gave up on something, and but they kept every so often. If you pay attention, you'll see Ed running in the background, like just running from the side of the frame to the other side of the frame, and then eventually they're like, "You've been working on this all day?" And then you're like, "Oh yeah, they've been." He's yes, I have, and so they take it and they go ride all the way up to the top. And then it falls.
Yep, and it's like hundreds of stories up.
Oh yeah, point. It's by the moon.
Yeah, and they like the whole like with the '90s cartoons like this one, they all like never die. They get in fatal accidents all the time.
Well, the other thing is they also knew they were in a TV show, in a cartoon.
Oh, it was like meta.
Yeah.
So. What's that kid's name who had the plank? I can't remember.
Oh, Johnny.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Because that's the one. That's the character I remember the most from that show, just because of that stupid
weird fucking head.
Yeah, just because of that stupid plank.
Dude, Rolf became a meme like
just recently,
quick.
So the funny thing about I actually watched a little like behind the scenes thing for Edd and Eddy.
Oh, me too.
And they actually didn't know that it was doing well because they were recording it all in Canada, and so it was only syndicated down in America, and so when they were up in Canada, they're like. They were shocked when they got like another another season because they didn't know what was going on and when they vacationed down there. But also, Aaron Fitzgerald plays Naz, and for Persona fans, for Persona 4 fans, Golden specifically, she plays. Oh my gosh, now I'm blanking on it, but she's in Persona 4, and now I'm like, because now I'm on the spot and I had it in my head, and now I'm like,
boy,
oh,
that's the worst.
Persona 4 Golden. There we go. Oh my god, they're gonna give me the Japanese names. Fuck.
Good luck pronouncing those.
Nah, damn it. It's not. It's Aaron Fitzgerald is the. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually ended up watching this. I guess it'd be like behind the scenes. It was kind of more like a documentary.
Chie is her name. Oh god dang it, I can't remember. I'm so mad that I didn't remember that.
There's this documentary. I think I watched it on YouTube about the show, and it was just kind of like showing their whole situation, like how you said they didn't know that it was doing well at all, and they would just kind of walk everybody through a day in the life at the studio when they were recording, and it was like really interesting. It was like an hour long, and you get to hear some of them, like some of their lines, and like they go back and forth with some of their dialogue just to kind of show everybody like how it is. I thought it was pretty interesting, and it really got me back into wanting to go find it. I still don't know where I can watch it again. But
What, that video?
No, just
Edd and Eddy?
Edd and Eddy, yeah.
Yeah, you probably just have to go and buy the DVDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Edd and Eddy was definitely a big show for me too, because I lived in a cul-de-sac in Idaho.
Yep.
And so it was just like, it just reminded me of that, and it just had that
close to home.
Yeah, literally, because like as it was on, I was in a cul-de-sac, so I just played with the neighbor kids. I was like, oh man, we could do that,
relatable.
So that I can go outside and play and make my own stories, my own wacky stuff. I will say, it really made me want a Jawbreaker, and then when I eventually got a Jawbreaker, I was like, these things suck. Yes. They are terrible. They're too big, and they shouldn't exist.
You're talking about like the standard circus Jawbreaker,
the one that's the size of a baseball.
Yeah.
No, I mean, why would you go any lower than that? I did
Gobstopper.
Well, I mean that's sort of a Jawbreaker, but
that's a watered down.
That's not a traditional.
No, it's not what Edd and Eddy had.
But they do have smaller versions.
They do have smaller versions, which was what I was getting to. I did eventually buy smaller versions. Yeah,
they just take fucking forever to eat, and they get powder all over your face, and they hurt your tongue.
Did you guys ever see that fucking episode where Kevin had like, it was an insane like room in his house, like his dad was rich or something.
Because his dad worked for the Jawbreaker factory. Yeah,
so he had them from every country.
Yeah,
and,
they were all different colors because they were from like Japan and Taiwan, and you're like,
it's like white and red for Japan.
Yeah, it's like whatever. This.
Yeah, dude. I was just like, whoa,
a Russian Jawbreaker. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And girls had. Then they had the Canker sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
The girls that liked Edd and Eddy.
The teenagers.
Yeah, the trailer park girls.
Yeah, they were trashy.
Yeah.
real bad.
They really wanted Edd and Eddy.
They did.
I remember the one episode. The one episode I remember is the when the Canker sisters found Edd and Eddy. It was the first episode. It's the first episode the Canker sisters show up. They essentially kidnap Edd and Eddy and then give them all of their dad's robes, which is weird because you're like, in your mind you're like, they're sister and they have 3 dads, and then you're like trying to do math in your head and you're like, how does this all work out?
Mom?
I don't know, but they gave all of
never
the.
Explained it.
Are they related? I don't know, but they the Canker sisters give Edd and Eddy each different robes, and then they make mac and cheese for them. But it makes this like really weird sound, which is oddly like makes you want mac and cheese, like when they're like when they get it.
Yeah,
and I don't know, it's just weird. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to think of some shows I watched as a kid. Here.
Well, so we didn't necessarily specify that we had to watch them as a kid, right?
No, I mean,
there's
you
a
can watch
kids
whatever.
show. Okay, because there's a kids show that was on a few years ago that I'm very fond of, known as Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
show is awesome, and I will never not like it because it's so cool. It's such a great concept. First of all, the idea that as a kid you have an imaginary friend, and most kids do, and then as you grow older, you forget about your imaginary friend. But what happens to your imaginary friend when you forget about them? Well, in this universe, they go to a foster home to be adopted by other kids who need imaginary friends. And it's just such a cool concept, and the imaginary friends that they come up with in the show are really awesome. Of course, Blue
is
what
the
was it? Blue Kazoo or something like that. I can't remember his full name. But Blue K Kazoo, I think his name was. And
Blue Ricard.
yeah,
Kazoo.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't quite remember it, but yeah. So he's like the main character along with his like little boy or whatever. And what's the boy's name? Max, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so Max basically has to make a deal with his mom because his mom thinks he's getting too old, so he has to send Blue to this foster home. But the Madam Foster, who's the one in charge, she makes him a deal. If you come and visit him every day, he can stay here without getting adopted. And so he's like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll do that. So every day Max goes to visit Blue, and then just shenanigans ensue. And my absolute favorite episode is the one with Imagination Man and his like evil, I think, I forget what her name was, but it's like this evil lady, and essentially they're in this like forever locked battle. It's like superhero versus supervillain, right? And the way she has the upper hand on him is she shoots like cute things at him, like roses and hearts and things, and he's like, it's too cute, and he's like freaking out because he's like, I'm too manly for this. And it turns out that like the kids who had imagined them were a brother and sister pair, because it turns out that in the end Imagination Man and the other girl are brother and sister. But in turn, what happens is Max becomes Imagination Man's like sidekick, and then Blue, getting jealous, basically turns into like a Darth Vader-esque character, and he wears this like chess knight's mask, and he's got this cape that's like 400 feet long because it's a dining room table cloth or something like that. And so every time he runs around the house, the cape's just dragging behind him with all the plates and the food and all that stuff. And I think even Eduardo who is another monster in the house, he had it tied around his neck, so he's being dragged behind with him the entire time. It's just a really weird episode. And then at one point, Max finds out, because he's like, I'm your father, and he's like, no, you're not. And he's like, okay, I'm not your father, but I was your friend. Takes off his mask or whatever. But yeah, it's a really good episode, and I really enjoyed that show. It was just really
That was a good
funny.
show, yeah.
Just kind of a unique idea that you don't see very often. That
Yeah, it was pretty fresh.
Yeah,
so.
and all the characters were great. I never really got annoyed by any of the characters. I always thought they all had their like really good traits, and they all had really great backstories. The backstory for Will, who's like this one-armed, really tall basketball player type monster, and he's missing an arm, and one of his eyes is all jacked up, and like the backstory for him is just really sad.
They gave him his own movie for that.
Yeah, and
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, and it was like, it's like, dude, wow, like that's really deep for a children's TV show, you know, like the idea of coming to terms with getting older and letting go and all these kind of just big concepts for like a little kid to understand, and they handle it very well, and even the idea of adoption, just you don't really see anything on TV about that even. And granted, it's an imaginary friend. It's it's still the idea of like being able to adopt someone or whatever,
Yeah, I mean the thing is like you were mentioning that you watched it not as a kid.
Yeah.
That's still a kid show for us because we definitely watched it as a
Oh
kid.
yeah, because I watched that when I was in, like,
still in
high
elementary school.
20 years old.
Yeah,
like
I
that,
was
so.
definitely in elementary school when Foster's was going on,
Oh,
and then
okay.
eventually it did end. But yeah, like another show that I watched. I was trying to think of like shows that I watched, and then maybe some shows that were like obscure. One show would be on Toon Disney. There was a Hercules show. I don't know if you ever.
No,
They-
like Hercules, the cartoon,
Yeah,
like based off the
animated
Hercules.
show,
Oh, okay,
yes.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was before he was like the hero. They just
Yeah.
it was like his college years.
Yeah, when he's still in the white
yeah.
like costume or whatever, and he walks.
So for
pigeon-toed.
some weird fucking reason, Disney decided, hey, let's take all of the popular movies that just came out from the 90s and the early 2000s and then make spin-offs of them in a TV show. So they did this multiple times. They did this with Hercules was one of the first, if not was the first they did the spin-off one. And then they took that idea after Hercules was over, and then they were like, let's just put this on Disney Channel, but with a newer show. And then they made Emperor's New School, which was based on Emperor's New Groove, which is not bad. And then because it was just modern Cusco going back into school, like it wasn't like a flashback. It was just adding on to Emperor's New Groove. And then with eventually they kind of still kept the spin-off thing going, and they did Lilo and Stitch.
Don't forget about Aladdin.
They did do an Aladdin show, didn't they? That was on Toon Disney, though.
Because the third movie was like essentially the intro into the TV show, and then the TV
Aladdin
show
4, Jafar goes and gets new glasses.
Yeah, it's like it picked up right after the TV show.
Yeah. Yeah, so they kept doing these spin-offs, and some of them were good, some of them were not so good. Lilo and Stitch, I definitely watched that on Disney Channel. Because every episode they would introduce, it was a great concept. They were like, there's 626 experiments, so let's just keep making an episode. And every single episode, we're going to introduce a new brother or sister to Stitch. And I was like, that's genius. And then they're like, oh yeah, actually there was experiment 627. And then they made Leroy, and then they made all these different weird spin-offs of like, because they kept making movies off of Lilo and Stitch, and I was like, okay, we got too many, and then I stopped watching. But they, it was kind of cool when they were just kind of adding to that, even though they were just stealing views from Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network at the time, it was really interesting for the early 2000s for those networks, because I think they really were at their beginning peak, and I don't think any of them have tried to go back to where they were. Nickelodeon is nowhere near where Nickelodeon was.
Yeah. 90s Nickelodeon is top notch.
90s Nickelodeon is probably the peak for Nickelodeon, just because
it's been around since like the late 70s.
Well, it's because they just don't have what they had in the 90s, and I don't think they can get away with much stuff that that could have gotten away. Like Angry Beavers, you can't name a TV show Angry Beavers. Like it's just funny and how they could do it. Cow and Chicken, it's about two human people that have a daughter that it's a cow and a son that's a chicken, and they have like a Satan devil like as a boss that pops in here and there.
Yeah.
And then Powerpuff Girls on Cartoon Network, they tried to reboot back, but it's like, dude, you can't capture what you had in the 90s with Powerpuff Girls, because they were introducing concepts that were like way too ahead of its time. Of like, you had a monkey with a brain like that was visible that you could see, so there's a little bit of like some
Mojo Jojo.
Yeah, Mojo Jojo. And then you had him, which was like this transgender Satan crab person.
Yeah.
And you had Miss Bellum, who
Something
you
like
didn't
that,
see her face, but she was the assistant to the mayor, and she's just this smoking hot girl that is the assistant to the mayor that never like has a vacation. And so and then they took her off. They took her off the show.
That just reminded me of something.
Yeah, they took her off the show of the new season of the reboot because she was too much, and then they just couldn't get it back again. So there's like there's things about those cartoons that happened during those 90s peak and the early 2000s that I don't think that really continued the like, oh, let's have something that's like meaningful and thinking, because now Disney Channel doesn't even really have cartoons, and it really sucks because like the only cartoon you can see of Disney Channel is like what do they call it? Disney Junior, which is the thing they show for like in the early morning so they like little kids can watch. And then after that, after like the afternoon time, you have live action. Like it's all they're trying to recreate Hannah Montana and Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So they have all these different like weird live action shows going on. Cartoon Network tried doing live action for whatever fucking reason because it's not in their name or anything. So it's like they left that, and then Nickelodeon just has not been able to pick up where they were. And especially like, do you remember how freaking stoked the 90s, early 2000s Nickelodeon was.
Oh,
They had the Nick Hotel. They had like a
Snick.
whole. They had Snick. They had all of these.
yeah.
They had all that. So they could even
Nick
do.
at Night.
But the thing was, is
yeah,
but
dude, I
Nick
used
at
to watch
Night
Nick
was.
at Night all the time.
But the thing is like they tried doing all of these. Really, they Nickelodeon probably was winning the 90s just based on
for sure.
based on the
They
fact
had
that they
their own
were
hotel.
well, that's what I was saying.
Oh, right.
I
Oh,
just
yeah. Sorry, my bad. My
yeah,
bad.
they had their own hotel. They had Nick
I
at
forgot.
Night. Did you know that?
Yeah,
Man, I don't
well,
know
they
why
had
I'm
their
thinking
own
so much.
studio even.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
Like, in Florida, and it had the slime. Was the hotel at the studio?
No, it was a little bit
Oh,
farther away, but
oh,
they don't
okay.
have it anymore. It's now like the Nick.
all that's defunct.
The Nick Hotel is now like a Hilton, and like the Blue Man Group now have the Nickelodeon studio. So it's just really weird on why it just didn't happen. I don't know. I guess the audience really like kids don't want to watch TV anymore.
Part
they
of
want
the
to watch
problem is
YouTube.
the internet.
Yeah, it does.
You know, because like Saturday morning cartoons don't exist anymore. After the internet and Netflix and on-demand services became a thing, kids can watch cartoons anytime they want. So Saturday morning cartoons, they fell by the wayside. You know, there's no money in it for the networks.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because like you can definitely see the lack of quality of these companies that are trying to do it. The only thing I can see that are animation styles that are risky and are still pulling in an audience is Adult Swim on Cartoon Network. And the thing is like that's not a kids network anymore.
Yeah.
Like as soon as Adult Swim happens, it's over. I remember when Adult Swim premiered, and it was like. It was so crazy that Cartoon Network was becoming mature. They're going to do a mature shows. They're going to bring in like a whole bunch of different stuff. And then all of a sudden, like people started talking about it, and Robot Chicken became a thing. And like around the early era of Adult Swim.
C-Lab 2021.
Yeah,
there was Squidbillies.
Squidbillies was on there.
God, what's another one?
Aqua Teen, wasn't it?
Aqua Teen.
Yeah.
Hunger Force.
Yeah, they
That
were
was
one of
an
the
early
first.
one.
Yeah, so it's like it was original content, and because Adult Swim has never really lost that, they've gotten Rick and Morty. They've gotten like all of these. Isn't Eric Andre on Adult Swim?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like they've had all of these crazy shows that are just out there, but they somehow find their audience. And I think it's because we live in such a day and age that cartoons can't do that anymore. They can't try to do something weird and like get out there. Like I said, Cartoon Network seems to be the only one that I see that tries to take those leaps because, they got Gumball, they got Adventure Time, and they got all these other crazy shows. I mean, Adventure Time's over, and Gumball I think is like very rare now because now they really show Teen Titans Go, which is not great.
Ooh.
But you look at Nickelodeon, it's like, can you name a Nickelodeon show that's currently on other than SpongeBob? Like, I'm sure there are plenty of them, but I can't even think of one. And then like Disney Channel, I haven't watched Disney Channel in probably like 5 years. And that's saying something because I'm a Disney fan. And so like when I look at it is like when I go down to Disneyland, they have it on TV because if you stay in a Disney hotel, it's just literally just all Disney channels, like ABC, ESPN, like all these other. So when you watch it, it's all these formulated like shows of where let's get two guys and one girl, and we're gonna make them like friends, and they're gonna do like wacky antics. But now it's the modern era, so we can't have two guys. We have to have two girls, one guy, and then we're gonna have them do wacky antics because that's that they've followed this formula so close that you can even track it back. Hannah Montana, two girls, one guy. That's So Raven, two girls, one guy. And then Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, you had two guys, one, and then one main girl was like
Drake
Ashley
and Josh
Tisdale.
also. Well, that's
Drake and Josh,
Nickelodeon,
yeah,
though.
Drake
but
and
still.
Josh is-
But that's the thing is like
Yeah,
Drake
I like
and
that show a lot.
the thing about Nickelodeon though is that was still the early 2000s for them, and they were falling off of Amanda Show, and so it's like Drake and Josh are from Amanda
Which
Show.
came off of all that.
Yeah, well, and all that had spin-offs of their own when they had
Good Burger. And
Kenan and Kel came off.
Kenan and Kel. Yeah.
So it's like they were able to juggle all of this stuff. I don't know who the hell dropped the balls on all three of these platforms, but apparently it's still enough for them to get views.
Yeah, I think the last good show I watched on Nickelodeon was iCarly.
iCarly was good.
I remember that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, which what came up like that.
That was a spinoff of Drake and Josh.
right. Yeah.
But even though it was, I guess technically not.
Yeah.
No.
Like it's just the same girl.
Same
or
girl,
whatever.
same
Miranda
actress.
Cosgrove.
But essentially, yeah, she just
Yeah, went on and did her thing.
it's more or less.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just insane that a lot of these shows just kept doing it. And then I guess like the only thing I see Disney doing well is Disney XD, where they like totally go out and make, oh, we're going to do a show with like Marvel characters. We're going to have like an animated Spider-Man show. We're going to do a Star Wars series. Like, and we're gonna bring a show called Rebels to the action. Everyone loved it. Attack of the Clone Wars when it was on Cartoon Network. We got to bring that back. So they're like able to take those risks on Disney XD, but it's not a major channel, so you got to pay to get that channel. So I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I think that definitely the quality has gone down.
Yeah. That's because attention spans have gone down and. Like kids don't sit still nowadays, they don't really want to sit there and like sit at a channel at a TV and just watch TV, like more everybody has like iPads and phones and stuff.
Yeah,
So it's
toddlers have their own iPads.
So it's
yeah,
all
I
on
think
the
that's
go.
too messed up.
Yeah, a lot of cartoons are shorter because back in, the late 90s, early 2000s, cartoons were like, obviously with commercials and stuff, like give or take, they'd be about 22 minutes an episode.
Yeah.
Whereas most cartoons now are shorter. They're all about 10 to 15 minutes, save for your major cartoons. But even then, they're still segmented into 2 segments most of the time.
Well, I mean, like you can look back at Rugrats and
like
Courage the Cowardly Dog. Those were 2 different shows. Like they'd have 2 different episodes in one thing.
Yeah. But,
or you had do you remember Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that was not even what that show was going to be? It was the Grim Adventures of Evil Con Carne. Yeah, do you remember that?
I don't.
It was about a brain, and he was inside a bear, and like he was an evil ruler, an evil genius dictator, and they put the brain from the genius dictator into a bear, and that was the show. And so Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy were a part of that. They were a part of the half show because it was the same animators, and they were trying to see which one was better. Like, which ones did kids like more? Obviously, Billy and Mandy won because they continued making it.
Aren't they in the same universe as Fairly Odd Parents?
Maybe the same animators, but they were on different networks.
That was a good show.
Oh,
too.
okay. Because I thought they did a crossover episode.
No,
at some
Billy and
point.
Mandy went over. No, a crossover episode happened with Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, they had the Fairly Odd.
Yeah, because I knew there was a crossover with one of those guys.
But even then, those weren't the same animators. They were just the same network.
Actually, a
Yeah.
good movie, by the way.
The Jimmy Neutron Fairly Odd
Yeah,
Parents
I
thing?
did like it.
See, that's the other thing. Jimmy Neutron, that was a movie. Was not a cartoon. Became a cartoon after the movie did so well.
Yeah, I remember when Jimmy Neutron came out.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
No, I remember everyone loved it.
I didn't watch it a lot, but I remember the episodes I saw were pretty funny.
I definitely watched Jimmy Neutron, and then I watched Fairly Odd Parents.
Okay, so we're talking a lot about cartoons. What about game shows? Does anybody remember Double Dare? Or
I watched Legends of the Hidden Temple,
and I was going to say Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
But I did not watch that
Legends of the
live.
Hidden Temple.
I watched that when I was like
when it was in syndication. I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember watching that when it came out.
that
And
was on the
Kirk
Nickelodeon
Fogg.
studio.
Yeah.
That was shot there.
the Blue Barracudas.
They did bring back Double Dare.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of the new.
I don't know who
iterations.
hosts that though. It's a
I think
Vine
Mark
star.
Summers came back. I thought.
No, I think it's a Vine person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought
hosting
Mark
Double
Summers
Dare.
came back because I remember him hosting Double Dare, and then I'm trying to think of some other kids like game shows that used to be on. I don't really remember anymore. Other than those
it's
two.
Liza. I don't know if you know who she is.
No.
Yeah, she's a YouTuber, Viner person. But yeah, no, I think that there should be some game show stuff that it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
they
I'm
did
trying
try to
think
do
of some more.
Hole in the Wall on Cartoon Network. I just think that was on the wrong network.
I don't even know what that is.
Hole in the Wall, you
Yeah.
literally just fit in the hole.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
literally
the one where
all
it's
it
like
is.
weird. It's like weird poses, and you
Yes.
got to like go through. That's right.
Did you ever watch oh god, Silent Library? That was on MTV.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was funny.
God, there's another show that's kind of like Silent Library. I've got to find it though. okay, I'm just gonna describe it to you. It was like a Japanese game show, but they showed it on Comedy Central for whatever reason, and they had like comedians as the dub people. I don't know if this was actually what was being said, but what they were saying like someone would be like, they'd give them like a funky name even though that's not even their
Wait,
name.
are you talking about MXC?
Is that what it is? Hold on. Go ahead.
Vic Romano and Kenny Blankenship, and they had
most extreme challenge.
Most extreme elimination challenge.
Yes, this is it.
Yeah,
it's still going.
What?
I think
2003 continuing.
I think they. Well, I think it's still going in. Well, no, because it's based off of Takeshi's Castle, which was like in the 80s in Japan.
Yes.
And
so they're just doing
I don't
like
know if they're making new episodes.
They're just doing
now,
Kung Fu
but
Enter the Fist type style, right? That's not
more or
actually
less,
what they're saying.
Yeah, they just had people like just talking over, making nonsense stuff. Because there was Guy Ledouche, who was the the announcer guy or whatever, and then because that was on
Kenny and Vic.
Yeah, that was on Spike TV. Yeah,
that was on Spike.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I remember watching that because they had 3 or 4 seasons. I have all the seasons on DVD. I love that show. My favorite episode was the what was it? Censorship versus the porn industry. It's the best.
Oh
episode.
yeah, that's right. Because everyone would have a team.
Yep.
And so they would name them all like after porn stars, like made up porn stars.
Yeah.
And then the other one was all these like.
Here comes
business-
John Cockburn.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. They would
like
just
that.
have these like
Yeah.
all these weird. Oh god.
And it, dude, people would bite it so hard on those stunts, dude.
I totally remember this. Right, you are, Ken.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, because what was it? Kenny was like the weird one. He always talked about the girls, and he was super perverted. And You'd be like, "Yeah, I want to see her like her void or whatever," and he'd be like, "Kenny, we're on a kids TV show," you know.
Oh,
but it
God.
seriously was not supposed to be watched by kids. I don't.
No.
think, because of the comedy.
My dad showed me so many things that I probably should not have seen. I watched South Park when I was like 5.
See, my parents wouldn't let me watch.
Yeah,
that.
no,
I wasn't allowed.
because my dad was he was like one of the big advocates for South Park. Like he went watched the TV show. He had the VHS tapes. Like, and then when the movie came out, he did a. Here's the thing. I don't know if my dad wants me to share this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. He took my mom and his best friend and his wife to go see South Park, Bigger, Larger, and Uncut. Them two, the wives, have never seen South Park.
Oh, they probably walked out.
They were so mad, they got up and left.
I knew it. I absolutely knew it.
And my dad, I think they left and then they came back later to watch the movie by themselves. But it was so awesome that so South Park's Bigger, Larger, and Uncut. I've always known South Park. I have known that it has existed. And it has been relatively available to me. I just never watched it until I was a little older.
Yeah.
Because I think my dad's idea of it was like, if you don't hear it exists, it exists. If you don't watch it, that's your thing. This is bad. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But it's also funny, and you should be able to laugh at things. And so that was kind of like, I think, his idea of things.
I have a sense of humor,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I watched like Austin Powers when I was like 6.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I should not have been watching that.
I had the same experience that you had with South Park, but with Beavis and Butthead, because like I technically, my mom didn't want me to watch it, but I stayed up and watched it anyway, and oh my god, I love that show. But then I gravitated towards South Park later on in life, and my parents wouldn't let me watch that either. But I didn't like sneak watch that one like I did Beavis and Butthead.
Dude, Mike Judge is a fucking genius.
Oh yeah, dude, I love his King of the Hill too.
King of the Hill is amazing.
And
I never watched it.
Not everybody
and
likes
his
it
movies.
though. I love
I
it.
felt like that was just too redneck for me.
Yeah,
I lived in Idaho, Ashton. You don't know who I knew.
It starts out pretty tough. The first season's
My dad's
kind
from
of
Kansas.
yeah.
I mean, but you didn't live in Kansas.
No, I didn't live in
See,
Kansas.
that's different.
But I have family.
Okay.
Yeah, because like that, the first season's really tough to like chew through, but after it gets going and the characters kind of become established, after that it gets really funny in like
Yeah.
the latter
Fucking
seasons.
dickhead neighbor. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I just never
So-
could have. You never got into it. I think it's the animation style.
Yeah.
I eventually got into The Simpsons, but that took a while.
Oh yeah,
And then
I've been watching
eventually
The
I
Simpsons.
kind of fell off The Simpsons.
I fell
I
off
watched
The
that
Simpsons.
weekly though. I watched.
Oh,
I
yeah,
watched that
yeah.
new episodes of Simpsons. I watched that.
Yeah, because I remember
Malcolm in the Middle
watching-
and The Simpsons,
Oh, dude,
and then
Malcolm in the Middle. I totally forgot.
See
about
what
that.
I did? This is literally my Thursday nights when I was in like late elementary school, early middle school. I got home. I watched Malcolm in the Middle. Malcolm in the Middle lead it into The Simpsons. The Simpsons lead it into SmackDown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they were all like Wait, was SmackDown on Fox at that point, or was it?
It was on UPN 11.
UPN. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was on a different channel.
Yeah, UPN 11. Boy.
Yeah, I forgot all about Malcolm.
Oh, I'm
That was
sorry.
a great
No,
show.
Q13 Fox. It was on. No, it was on UPN because I remember
Yeah,
when they
'cause that's
changed
when they
it.
started, right?
Yeah, UPN 11 was
Because that was
okay.
before the CW was a thing. 'Cause
Yes.
it was UPN
Yeah,
and the
they eventually
WB,
changed it, yeah.
and then they merged those two channels
Yeah.
together.
The CW.
A few honorable mentions for me.
Yeah, we're almost over time here.
Yeah, because I was gonna say nobody brought it up, but I know we've talked about it before. Pokemon.
I was gonna mention
Yep.
Pokemon, but I
Yeah.
didn't think we could. I thought we already mentioned it.
Yeah, that one we would have talked about
Yeah.
forever. SWAT Cats was one that I really liked as a
Never
kid.
watched that.
Oh, it's so awesome. And then there was Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon as well.
Okay. Any rapid fire ones?
Cat dog.
Cat Dog was good.
Oh yeah, Cat.
Tom
Dog.
Kenny again. That's another Tom Kenny show. That's voice of SpongeBob,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
and he was also in Power Patrol.
Rocco's Modern Life was another
Rocco
one
was
that I
another
loved.
good one. Chalk Zone was a good one. Johnny Bravo.
Oh, Chowder.
Loved Chowder. I was. Jameson wasn't allowed to watch Chowder.
I love Chowder. It's so good.
Yeah. So that's about it. I think that's enough good ones.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching on YouTube. If you
Yes.
watch the video version of this, you can also listen to the audio version over on iTunes and Podbean. If you have an Android, download Podbean and listen to this show. If you have an iPhone, you're an Apple listener, go and just open up podcasts and download this. Links in the description below for all of Primal Target social media. If you want to follow all of us, then just go to Ryan A. E. Moore on all social media. For me, Josh, where are you at?
You can find me at Bonier Rope, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
Okay, and
Twitter, Ashton_Stom.
okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Comment section is open to you. What is your favorite TV shows as you watched as a kid? And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Good night.
Laters.
Bye.
Yeah.